The defiant choice. The warning lights cast red shadows across the curved walls of Nexus Station as Cadet Elena Vasquez pressed her palm against the sealed laboratory door. The metal felt cold beneath her fingers, but not as cold as the silence that had fallen over the research facility 36 hours ago. Behind that door lay something that had made the greatest minds in the galaxy pack up and flee. Elena had been ordered to leave with the rest of the human contingent. Dr. Harrison, her supervisor, had made it clear that this was not a request. The Galactic Council had issued a Priority Alpha directive. All research on the artifact was to cease immediately. The facility was to be evacuated and sealed. But Elena remained. She keyed in her access code, knowing it would likely be the last time the system would accept it. The door hissed open, revealing the sterile white chamber beyond. At its center, suspended in a containment field that hummed with barely contained energy, floated the object that had terrified every major civilization in the galaxy. The artifact was beautiful in its simplicity. No larger than a human head, it resembled crystallized starlight, its surface shifting between translucent and opaque as internal patterns pulsed with their own rhythm. The Kithari had found it drifting in the void between galaxies, untouched by time, untouched by the cosmic radiation that should have destroyed anything so delicate eons ago. Elena approached the control console, her footsteps echoing in the empty chamber. The readouts were still active, still collecting data that no one was supposed to analyze. She had been part of the initial research team, one of only 3 humans among dozens of alien scientists. While the others had focused on the artifact's physical properties, Elena had been studying its energy signature. What she had discovered made her stomach clench with fear and determination in equal measure. The artifact was not just ancient, it was a beacon, and something was responding to it. 3 days ago, the deep space monitoring stations had detected anomalous readings from the galactic rim, objects moving at impossible speeds, heading directly toward inhabited systems. The Galactic Council had immediately connected these readings to the artifact's discovery and ordered all research halted. Their fear was understandable. The last time something like this had been found, the Zephrani Empire had vanished overnight. 50 billion souls, gone without a trace, leaving behind only empty worlds and the lingering taste of ozone in dead atmospheres. But Elena had seen something the others had missed. Hidden in the artifact's energy patterns was a mathematical sequence that looked familiar. It matched theoretical models for quantum communication arrays, the kind that could span galactic distances instantaneously. The artifact was not just sending a signal, it was receiving one. She activated her personal workstation, fingers dancing across holographic interfaces that materialized in the air around her. Data streams flowed like rivers of light, cascading through predictive models and probability matrices. The numbers painted a picture that made her blood run cold. The approaching objects were not ships. They were something else entirely. Something that had been waiting in the dark spaces between galaxies for millions of years. The artifact's activation had not summoned them. It had alerted them to something they were already seeking. Elena's hands trembled as she pulled up the classified files she had been gathering in secret. Deep space archaeological reports, xenological surveys, patterns of vanished civilizations scattered across the galaxy like breadcrumbs leading to an inevitable conclusion. This had happened before, many times. The approaching entities were part of a cycle, a cosmic cleansing that occurred every few million years. They swept through galaxies like antibodies through a bloodstream, eliminating any civilization that had reached a certain level of technological development. The Zephrani had not vanished by accident. They had been selected for termination, and humanity, along with every other spacefaring race in the galaxy, was next on the list. Elena's communication device chirped with an incoming message. Dr. Harrison's weathered face appeared in the hologram, his expression grave. Cadet Vasquez, you need to evacuate immediately. The Council has detected your presence on the station. They're sending a containment team. Dr. Harrison, I've found something. The artifact isn't what we thought it was. Elena, listen to me very carefully. Whatever you think you've discovered, it doesn't matter. The Council has made their decision. The artifact is too dangerous to study. But they're wrong. Elena's voice cracked with frustration. The danger isn't the artifact itself. It's what's coming because we don't understand it. I can stop this, but I need more time. Dr. Harrison's image flickered as interference disrupted the signal. When it stabilized, his expression had hardened. The Cathari fleet has been dispatched to secure the station. They have orders to use any means necessary to prevent further contamination. You have less than an hour before they arrive. The transmission cut out, leaving Elena alone with the humming artifact and the weight of impossible choices. She could flee, as ordered, and let the galaxy face its fate blind and unprepared. Or she could stay and try to unlock the secret that might save billions of lives. She chose to stay. Elena sealed the laboratory and activated the emergency protocols that would prevent anyone from entering without her authorization. The station's AI protested, warning her that her actions constituted insubordination and violation of direct orders. She ignored it and began the process of interfacing directly with the artifact. The containment field generators whined as she adjusted their frequency to match the artifact's energy signature. Warning alarms blared throughout the facility as she bypassed safety protocols that had been put in place for good reason. But Elena had studied the energy patterns for months. She knew how to resonate with them safely. At least, she hoped she did. The artifact responded to her adjustments with a pulse of brilliant light that filled the chamber. Elena's vision went white for a moment, and when it cleared, she was no longer alone in the room. Images flickered around her like ghosts made of starlight, scenes from ancient civilizations that had once flourished among the stars. She saw vast cities floating in space, beings of impossible beauty and intelligence working together to push the boundaries of science and art. And she saw them all die. The cleansing came like a wave of darkness, consuming everything in its path. Worlds were stripped bare, their atmospheres boiled away, their populations reduced to cosmic dust. But in the final moments before each civilization fell, Elena saw the same thing, a desperate attempt to leave a message, a warning for those who would come after. The artifact was that message. Elena's mind reeled as the full scope of the truth hit her. The approaching entities were not invaders. They were gardeners, pruning the galaxy to prevent any single species from growing too powerful. They operated according to protocols set down by an even more ancient civilization, one that had faced the same choice eons ago. But the protocols could be changed. The artifact was not just a beacon or a communication device. It was a key, capable of interfacing with the cosmic machinery that governed the cleansing cycles. And Elena was the first being in millions of years to understand how to use it. The station shuddered as the Cathari fleet dropped out of hyperspace. Elena could hear their ships docking, their soldiers marching through the corridors toward her position. She had minutes at most before they breached the laboratory. Her fingers flew over the control interfaces, inputting the command sequences she had theorized, but never dared to test. The artifact's light grew brighter, its internal patterns spinning, faster as it prepared to transmit across the galactic void. The laboratory door exploded inward in a shower of sparks and molten metal. Cathari soldiers poured through the breach, their energy weapons trained on Elena's position. Behind them came Commander Zalthi, his mantis-like features rigid with disapproval. "Step away from the artifact, human," he commanded, his translator, rendering his clicked speech into cold, precise words. "You have violated direct orders from the Galactic Council. Your species will face consequences for this transgression." Elena didn't move from her position at the control console. "Commander, you don't understand. I can stop what's coming. The artifact is the key to communicating with the entities approaching our galaxy. I can negotiate with them." "Negotiate?" Zaldi's compound eyes glittered with something that might have been amusement. "You would trust the words of beings that have destroyed entire civilizations? Human naivety will be the death of us all." "Human determination might be the salvation of us all," Elena replied, her hand hovering over the final activation sequence. "Every species that faced this threat tried to fight or hide. None of them tried to understand. None of them tried to change the rules of the game." "And you believe you can succeed where countless others failed?" Elena met his gaze steadily. "I have to try. because the alternative is the death of everything we've built, everything we are, everything we could become. Zalthi gestured to his soldiers. They raised their weapons, charging them with deadly energy. You will step away from the controls, or we will remove you by force. Elena smiled, and in that expression was all the stubborn defiance that had carried humanity from caves to stars. You know what the difference is between humans and every other species in this galaxy? We don't know when to quit. She slammed, her palm down on the activation pad. The artifact erupted with light that turned the world into pure, blinding radiance. The last thing Elena heard before the energy consumed her was the sound of reality itself beginning to change. The burning truth. Elena's consciousness drifted in a space between spaces, where the laws of physics were suggestions and time moved like honey through crystal. She was aware of herself as points of light scattered across infinite darkness, each point a memory, a thought, a fragment of her humanity held together by will alone. Around her, the universe sang. It was not music as humans understood it, but something deeper and more fundamental. The harmonics of stellar formation, the percussion of colliding galaxies, the delicate melodies of quantum fluctuations that danced at the edge of existence, and threading through it all she heard voices, the voices of the architects. They had been old beyond measure when the first stars were young. Their civilization had spanned multiple galaxies, their understanding of reality so complete that they had become part of the cosmic machinery itself. They had seen the rise and fall of countless species, watched as galaxy after galaxy gave birth to intelligence that grew, flourished, and inevitably turned toward darkness. Elena felt their memories washing over her like waves on an infinite shore. She saw wars that consumed solar systems, weapons that unraveled the fabric of space-time itself, civilizations that had grown so powerful they had begun to threaten the stability of the universe. She understood now why the cleansing protocols had been created, but she also saw something else. The architects had not created the protocols out of cruelty or fear. They had created them out of love. Love for the cosmos itself, for the delicate balance that allowed life to exist at all. They had sacrificed their own existence to become guardians, pruning the garden of reality to ensure that it would never be destroyed by those who dwelt within it. Yet their protocols were flawed. They were based on patterns observed billions of years ago when the universe was younger and less complex. The cleansing cycles had become automated, mechanical, incapable of recognizing that some species were different. Elena felt herself being drawn deeper into the cosmic mechanism, her consciousness interfacing with systems of unimaginable complexity. She could see the approaching entities now, not as harbingers of destruction but as extensions of the architect's will. They were not evil. They were simply following their programming, executing commands that had been hard-coded into their existence eons ago. But programming could be changed. Elena reached out with her mind, following data streams that connected her to every monitoring station, every communication relay, every quantum sensor array in the galaxy. She could see it all. The panic spreading through civilized space as reports of the approaching entities reached every major population center. Fleets mobilizing for battles they could not win. Populations preparing for an extinction they could not prevent. She had, perhaps minutes before the entities reached the outer rim of inhabited space, minutes to rewrite protocols that had governed the cosmos for millions of years. The artifact that had started this chain of events was no longer a physical object. It had become part of her, its crystalline structure integrated into her consciousness, like a new organ of perception. Through it, she could interface directly with the cosmic machinery, speak with the sleeping minds of the architects themselves. They were surprised to hear her voice. Elena felt their attention focus on her like the weight of stars. They had not expected any current civilization to possess the sophistication necessary to access their systems. Their analysis of her was swift and thorough, cataloging every aspect of her species' development, their history, their potential, for growth or destruction. The verdict was not encouraging. Humanity was young, aggressive, and technologically advancing at a rate that concerned the ancient guardians. Their projections showed multiple scenarios where human expansion led to galactic conflict, and eventual cosmic catastrophe. The cleansing protocols marked them for elimination, along with every other spacefaring species in the galaxy. But Elena had not come to argue for humanity's innocence. She had come to propose an alternative. She showed them what they had missed in their calculations. The unique aspect of human nature that set them apart from every other species the architects had observed. Humans were not just survivors or conquerors. They were teachers. Everywhere humanity had gone, they had uplifted other species, shared their knowledge, worked to build bridges between different forms of life. Even now, in the face of extinction, human ships were joining mixed fleets. Human scientists were sharing their research with alien colleagues. Human diplomats were working to coordinate a united response. Elena showed them the Nexus station itself, where dozens of species had worked together to study the artifact. She showed them human colonies where multiple races lived in harmony, human explorers who had chosen to preserve rather than exploit the wonders they discovered among the stars. The architects were intrigued but not convinced. They had seen similar patterns before. Species that seemed peaceful in their youth often became aggressive as they aged. The protocols existed to prevent that eventuality. Elena felt their patience beginning to fade. The entities were approaching the outer rim, their cleansing beams already beginning to charge. She had seconds left to make her case. Instead of arguing further, she made an offer. Elena volunteered to become the first of a new kind of guardian, not an automated system following ancient programming, but a conscious being capable of adapting to changing circumstances. She would monitor the galaxy's development, intervening only when truly necessary, guiding species toward cooperation rather than destruction. It would mean giving up her physical existence, becoming something between human and machine, mortal and eternal. It would mean watching her own species grow and change from a distance, never again able to walk among them as one of their own. But it would save them, all of them. The architects considered her proposal with the weight of cosmic responsibility. They could see the sincerity of her intent, the depth of her commitment to protecting life rather than simply preserving order. Slowly, carefully, they began to modify their protocols. Elena felt the changes rippling outward through space-time. The approaching entities slowed, their weapons powering down as new instructions overwrote their original programming. Instead of cleansing beams, they began transmitting communication frequencies, attempting to establish contact with the civilizations they had been sent to destroy. But the transformation was not without cost. Elena felt herself being drawn deeper into the cosmic machinery, her individual consciousness expanding to encompass systems that spanned galactic distances. She was becoming something more than human, but also something less. In her final moments of purely human awareness, she reached out through the galaxy's communication networks to send a message to Earth, to her family, to Dr. Harrison and everyone she had worked with at the research station. The message was simple. Trust in what makes us human. Never stop reaching for the stars. Then Elena Vasquez, human being, ceased to exist. In her place, something new was born, a guardian who understood both the weight of cosmic responsibility and the precious value of individual life. The first, of her kind, but not the last. The entities that had come to cleanse the galaxy instead began to teach. They shared knowledge of technologies that could solve energy crises, cure diseases, and open pathways to previously unimaginable realms of existence. But they also established boundaries, making it clear that certain lines could not be crossed. Without consequences, Elena, now distributed across quantum networks that spanned the cosmos, watched over it all. She guided diplomatic negotiations between hostile species, subtly influenced research that might lead to dangerous weapons, and occasionally appeared in dreams to inspire scientists and artists whose work would benefit all life. The galaxy did not know her name, but they lived because of her choice. Humanity was no longer seen as a young, reckless species to be monitored with suspicion. They had become something else, the race that had produced the first being willing to sacrifice everything for the greater good. And in research stations and universities across the galaxy, a new field of study emerged. Xenopsychologists began examining the unique aspects of human nature, that had made such a sacrifice possible. They called it the Vasquez Principle, the capacity to see beyond immediate survival, to consider the welfare of all conscious beings. Elena had defied Galactic orders and activated a device that terrified the greatest minds in the universe. What followed was not annihilation, but transformation. Not the ending of civilizations, but their elevation to something greater. The human cadet who had refused to follow orders had become the first guardian of a new age, watching over the galaxy with wisdom born of sacrifice and love, born of understanding, that some things are worth more than individual survival. In the end, that was the most human thing of all.